Hey guys, good morning. Happy coffee talk. Coffee this morning is that Cafe Soleil coffee. It's in my Bumblebee mug. It's pretty decent. Pretty decent. It's not bad. I'm going to give you my honest opinion, guys, the real deal honest opinion about this coffee. So it's good. It's fine. And it's much better when you grind it from the beans. So I was sharing that, I think, on Monday. But it's pretty good. I'm drinking on my Bumblebee mug. And I've got something really exciting to share with you. So I am excited to share with you our very first Fit Me Coffee Talk podcast sponsor. And I've actually known of this company for a long time and have tried their stuff. But when I started considering them as a podcast sponsor, I actually took a couple weeks and really dove into their stuff because I've never had a podcast sponsor. And honestly, I've never even endorsed another product or thing. So I want to make sure that if I do, it's legit. So I took a couple weeks and I didn't even tell you guys about it. I just kind of checked out the stuff and I tried it all and I am really pumped. I'm really pumped to share this with you guys. So I'm going to give you a little tiny background first on why I was even interested in their product. And this can be sort of the coffee talk topic, I guess, of the day, but if you don't know, when I was in the Navy, so when I was 18 years old, I went to the Naval Academy. And in my first year in the Navy, I started having knee problems. And it wasn't bad. It was just like my knee would swell up sometimes. I mean, I was an athlete. I was playing a lot of sports. It's possible it was just, a little funny thing going on with my knee. I went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, well, you have an ACL that doesn't work. Well, I was 18, so I didn't know better. I mean, that should have been red flag number one. Like, that doesn't make sense. I didn't tear it. I didn't have an incident or anything. But I was active duty Navy, and this, captain, this doctor is telling me, this is what you got going on, and we need to do surgery. And so I'm like, all right, well, let's do surgery. So they did an ACL reconstruction when I was 18 years old on a knee that didn't have a torn ACL. Go back to sports and doing all the things. 9 months later, my knee's not working. It's actually way worse than it was before surgery. And the doctor goes, well, you're a statistical failure. So we're going to need to do this surgery again. So this time they redid my ACL reconstruction. So this was a second ACL reconstruction on that knee inside of that 1 year. But this time they harvested my patella bone from my good knee. So the left knee was the issue, but then they actually took the graft from my right knee. And so they kind of gave me two wonky knees. Couple, 9 months to a year go by, my knee is not working at all. I had a surgery to try to remove scar tissue. I had some debridement surgeries. I had a whole bunch of stuff. It did not work. My knee was not right. And so their goal was to get me out, graduated and commissioned. So after that, they did that. They did a third ACL reconstruction. So at this point, I was probably like 22. So they do a third ACL reconstruction on my left knee so they can send me on deployment. And no surprise there, it doesn't work. So at this point, I'm like 6 or 7 knee surgeries deep with a knee that went from being like Division I athlete level knee to, not even functional. It hurts all the time, swells up, I can't run, can't do all these things. So and I was starting to deal with chronic pain around my knee. And at the time, I, would just pop Motrin or whatever. That's kind of what you're supposed to do. And I was on pain pills a lot. I mean, fortunately, thank God, I did not keep going with the pain pills. But if you think about all these surgeries that I kept having back to back to back, each time I would have surgery, they would give me another script for, a hefty dose of Percocet, Oxy, Demerol, you name it. I mean, I had a stockpile. And again, this was the season of that. I remember one of the times that I had the double knee surgery. So I had both at the same time. And I was actually in a wheelchair after that. And I was on some sort of, narcotic painkiller, and they had told me to take it every 4 hours, until you're feeling less pain. Well, I was in a lot of pain, because they had, done bone surgery on both sides. And I took it, every 4 hours for 5 to 7 days, and I was hooked on it after that short amount of time. I had a really hard time coming off it. I couldn't sleep. I had a racing heart, all that stuff. And so I was like, whoa, this stuff is for real. It was scary. But, keep going, fast forward, still not a good knee. I'd done all these surgeries, and I get out of the Navy. I've had my first 2 kids. I'm out of the Navy now, and I go see a civilian doctor. I was working for a nonprofit at the time, and he was actually involved in a nonprofit. He was a donor, and University of Florida was a donor, and so I was working with them, and I had this chat with this knee surgeon, and he was like, wow, that's quite the story that you have there with your knees. Like, why don't you come in and I'll check it out for you? And he goes on to check out my knee and tell me that turns out the surgeon had drilled the hole in my tibia in the wrong place. And then they had repeated that same error 2 more times. And so my ACL reconstruction was never going to work because it wasn't done properly. And in order for him to try to resolve it or fix it, he was actually going to need to do a 2-step procedure. And one was going to be to pull all of the old hardware, the screws and stuff out, and bone graft my leg. And then he would try a 4th ACL reconstruction. Well, when he went in there, he saw that my knee was so bad, so destroyed from all of these surgeries. And he said my arthritis was like an 80-year-old lady. And I think at the time I was probably like 28, 29. And he's like, he ended up doing a microfracture procedure, which is a pretty aggressive procedure where they drill small holes into your bone and they bleed bone marrow into the joint in hopes that it creates like a cushion and can give you some relief from arthritis pain, because I was already in a lot of pain. So he did that surgery and then a 4th ACL reconstruction. So I've had all the knee surgeries, right? And the crazy thing is, after all that, that the last one that I had was 10 to 12 years ago, I think, big knee surgery. Since then, it's really just been about maintenance. It's about being fit and functional and taking care of my diet so that I'm not like eating inflammatory foods. Like if you eat a lot of sugar and processed food and alcohol, well, that can actually impact a joint like mine, because it'll cause systemic and chronic inflammation in your body, and that makes the joint issue worse. The other thing that I've done to sort of maintain my knee is stay really active. I mean, doing, CrossFit and weightlifting and jiu-jitsu might sound like the opposite thing that my knee needs, but my knee is trashed regardless, right? So, I mean, like I either get to be trashed and sedentary, or I get to have a knee that's kind of trashed and be active. And being active means that I'm building the muscles around my knee. And so I'm much more physically capable than I would be if I was just like babying it or thinking that I couldn't do anything. So those are some of the things that I do to maintain my knee. And I've had a couple times along the way where I've seen a doctor and they're basically like, you need a knee replacement right now. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not doing that. I mean, I'm too young. I'm 39 right now, but I've had doctors telling me that for my entire 30s that I need knee replacement right now, but they can't do it because they only last 15 years. So point is of all of this is that my knee has actually been something that I've had to deal with for most of my adult life, but it's also been a source of chronic pain. And again, I manage that chronic pain with diet, with exercise. But that fear of like, the painkillers, remembering that, I've never ever touched anything in that category, because I remember that fear of like, wow, I was only taking these for not even a week and I felt like my body was hooked. So I've never gone back ever to any of that. And instead, what are your choices to manage pain? So my choices were always like, well, Motrin or ibuprofen. Well, those are actually terrible for your gut. You can do it if you have like an acute injury. So say, for example, you twist your ankle and it's like really swollen. Well, by all means, like take some Motrin or ibuprofen, but they're not meant to be taken chronically. In fact, there's like warning labels everywhere on it. It's like, this will destroy your, maybe there should be. I think there's some that could like upset your stomach, but really what it's doing is destroying your gut, and your doctor will tell you that. It actually happened to my mom. She was taking it, chronically, and ended up with like this crazy, not being able to absorb nutrition. And then ultimately it triggered an autoimmune condition, all because sort of irresponsible doctor had told her to take the maximum dose of, I think it was naproxen, for like months straight. So anyways, that's not really an option. I almost never take Motrin, almost never. So then the only time that I actually struggle with pain is at night, because during the day I'm busy and, like I said, I manage it. So I have had trouble in the past sleeping because of my knee pain. And if you can't sleep, you can't recover. I mean, sleep is a big deal. So addressing how to sleep was really important to me. And a couple of years ago, I started using CBD and THC combo at night to sleep. So I would take like a part of a CBD or THC gummy, and that would just take the edge off my knee, and I would go to sleep. And I have been using that to manage my pain for years. And so when I was introduced to Cured Nutrition, which is the company that's, going to be sponsoring the podcast, that was the main reason I was interested. I was like, this is something that I've used to manage chronic pain for me for a long time. And that is one of their primary product offerings, are CBD blends. And so I actually got some, and again, I was going to try it before I tell you about it. And again, I've been taking these type of things for years, so I can compare. This isn't my first time. And so I've been taking their Serenity gummies to go to sleep, the Cured Serenity gummies, and they're excellent. The way it kind of makes my body feel is it takes about for 20 to 30 minutes for me to feel like it's kicking in. So I usually take it as I'm getting ready for bed. Like I'm brushing my teeth and brushing my hair and all that stuff. That's when I take those. And what it feels like is like right about when I'm like starting to doze off, I can start to feel my body just sort of like relax. And it feels kind of like, I don't know, like a light tingle, but nothing like weird. And that's it. That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like anything crazy, but it almost just feels like the surface layer of my body feels better. That's the way I could describe it. And it takes the edge off pain. I have zero problem sleeping and I conk out. And again, I have been very, very impressed and I really, really like them. And so I am super happy that they're sponsoring the podcast. They have other products too, and I actually got to try a bunch of their other stuff. So they have a CBD, vitamin D, micro dose mushroom blend that's like a wake up drink, and I loved it. I thought it was going to taste weird because I was like, I don't know, should I try microdose mushrooms? Because that's not something I've ever done before. Mushrooms, like I didn't have a season of psychedelics or something, but microdosing mushrooms is something that's like pretty typical now, and especially like good for your brain and all that good stuff. So I was like, let me try this. And I actually think it's fantastic. So their drink is fantastic. I've been taking their Rise, which is kind of their capsules that you take in the morning to help with focus. I really like those. And so, yeah. And I also got some of the salve, which is like almost like a tiger balm that you can put on the outside of your body. So you can put that on your knee or your shoulder or your hip, whatever's sore. And I like that too. And again, I've tried those before, and that has a CBD blend in it. And so, yeah, a lot of their products are THC free, and it says it on there. But the CBD is phenomenal for managing chronic pain. And especially when the alternatives are narcotic painkillers or, something that's actually going to destroy your gut lining if you use it chronically, then I feel like this is a phenomenal alternative and something, again, that I've used for a really long time. So I'm very, very excited that Cured is sponsoring the podcast. And I have a link so you guys can try it. And again, I've never endorsed a product on here before, right? And so I wanted you to know that this is something that actually matters in my life because this is like an ongoing thing for me. And I really genuinely like this product and company. And I wouldn't encourage you to check it out unless I did. And so I have a link, so you can order from my link if you want to. And then there's a code so that you can get a discount because you're a podcast listener. And so I will put that in the show notes and in the bio and all the places. But yeah, you'll hear me talk about it from time to time, probably not in this much detail, but I wanted to give you a little background on why I was even interested in this, right? Like I get hit up a lot, actually. I get hit up a lot around like, you want to promote my leggings or do you want to promote this or what that? And I ignore it all. This was the very first thing that I was like, you know what, this is going to actually help people in a way that like my life has been impacted, and I'm happy to share that. That makes me pumped. And I think like if you had to do a couple coffee talk takeaways from the story, other than the fact that this is a cool sponsor and you can, try out some of their products. They do ship all over the country. So check it out. The other takeaways are, number one, conventional like medication practices for managing chronic pain suck in the United States. They absolutely are atrocious. And so do lots of questioning if you are being told to take something for the long term. I would suggest, again, like I'm not a doctor, so I'm not telling you not to take it, but I would suggest maybe asking your doctor, what is the long-term effects of taking this? Or, how do I get off of this? Or what happens if I take this for 2 weeks? Or what happens if I take this for 2 months? Those are really important conversations when you have a chronic issue, like pain, whatever that is. So that's takeaway number one is question as much as possible, so you have all the information that you need if you're going to be taking chronic prescription medication or over-the-counter medication, to look into alternatives, lifestyle alternatives, right? So lifestyle being like cleaning up your diet, moving more, doing physical therapy, removing inflammatory foods, like all of those good things, getting more rest. That can really help if you are dealing with chronic pain. Another thing is using products that are less impactful on your body. Like CBD products to manage pain can be really great. And again, I can say that from firsthand experience. And I think the other takeaway from this is like, I don't know, you probably heard me say this a bunch of times, but all of that knee story happened before I became a coach, before I found CrossFit, before I started weightlifting, before I started jujitsu, before I started climbing mountains. All of that knee stuff was before. And so had I just let my knee be my like label for my life, I would have missed out on all of this. All of the amazing people that I've met through Fit Me, all of the coaching, all of the experiences, all of the fitness, all the fun, all of that, I would have missed out on all of it had I let my knee define me. And so I'm not saying I can do everything the same as everybody else in regards to knee stuff. I can't, but that's fine. I just do what I can. And I certainly don't let, the fact that in my 20s, my knee went from a normal functioning knee to like pretty much a 90-year-old lady's knee define the rest of my life. And I know a lot of people who've had injuries and surgeries and have conditions or situations, and it feels like it could define your life. It feels like that could be a thing. And I'm just going to challenge you as I like wrap up this episode to not let it, because you might miss the chapter, the amazing chapter ahead. Like you may not even know what's ahead for you. But if that, injury or that surgery or that condition defines you, then you're going to limit yourself. And nobody needs to do that. Don't limit yourself. So thanks as always for plugging into Coffee Talk. I will put the link for Cured Nutrition. Thank you, Cured, if you listen to this, for sponsoring the podcast. You're our very first podcast sponsor, and I'm super excited for everybody to get to try your stuff because it's very good. It's really, really good. So check them out. If you haven't done so, subscribe to Fit Me Coffee Talk on your favorite podcast platform. And if you're not a part of our Facebook group yet, go to Facebook, search Fit Me Community, request to join the group. I will add you there, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye.